I was going to ask you about the Torah reading during the Trump inauguration.
Okay. Now, basically, in a Jewish synagogue, you'll have two different readings, different prayers, but one is called the Torah reading, which is from Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, by books, the Torah, instruction that Moses wrote. And that's your primary book that's in scroll form in every synagogue. Then they have what's called Haftorah, which has nothing to do with the Torah. What it is, it's the Tanakh, or it's the prophets, and they will go to Isaiah or sometimes Jeremiah or one of the prophets, and so they have their Torah reading, which is every week, 52 weeks a year. Then they will go to the prophets and they will do readings from there. So what I began to do was, a few years ago, I began to look at, because the cycle is every year, but because the Jewish calendar falls at a different time frame every year, their new year does, the Torah reading will stay like in Exodus, but it will skip around, or you know what I'm saying? It won't be the same necessarily verse, same week every year. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I want to show you something here. I'm going to have to find it, and I want to read this, because the reason I want to read it is because this is so funny, because I want to be sure that I have my scripture references right. One of the fascinating events within the chapters that fell during Trump's being inaugurated was, and it was a little bit before, was Genesis chapter 48. Genesis 48 is hilarious, and I'm going to show you why it's hilarious. Have y'all read this yet? Some of y'all done sat there and read the book. Some of them reading the book while I'm talking.
They're reading the book. What page is that on? Let's say 185. If you have my book,
this is 185.
Okay. So if you have your book, open it up.
You can kind of follow along. Now, watch this carefully, and let me show you how a Haftorah reading during a prophetic cycle can repeat itself in a different way. In Genesis 48, it's recorded here that Joseph brought his two sons before his father Jacob for a blessing. He expected that his oldest son Manasseh would receive the right hand of blessing, which would identify him as the chosen among the two. Yet at the very last minute, Jacob switched his hands and placed his right hand of blessing on the younger son Ephraim. This broke with long-established tradition and protocol, even to the point of provoking Joseph to protest, making his father and trying to force his father's hand upon the other candidate. Notice I said candidate. You'll get that in a minute. The older son, Manasseh, was the one everyone felt deserved this appointment as the heir to the birthright, a high post in the nation called Israel. Jacob rejected Joseph's rebuke and insisted that he knew what he was doing. The one expected to receive the blessing did not get what he deserved, but the younger son, the one that was not expecting to be appointed as leader, received the authority to rule. Now, why is that interesting? Because this is being read prior to the inauguration, okay? So the picture here is there were two candidates. There was one that everybody had the guarantee the blessing was coming to of the presidency. Yeah. But at the last minute, God switched it and said, no, the one you don't expect to get the blessing is going to get the blessing. Oh, you all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
And Ephraim took the blessing, and Ephraim's name means to be fruitful. So what's the theme of our leader at this time is, I'm going to create jobs, make America great again. So the whole theme is being fruitful again.
Yes.
And there's a whole lot more to that. But one of the interesting things here, can I keep reading?
Yes.
You mind?
Oh,
I just saw this. I marked this, so that means it must be good. Here we go. I love it. Okay, in that section of Scripture, now remember, we're talking about the Torah reading, right? In the same chapter being read in the synagogue, okay, Torah reading, and this, again, this is the month of January of Trump's inauguration. I thought this was just pretty neat. In this section of Scripture refers to above, there can exist another clue in regards to the rise of Donald Trump. Prior to Jacob's departing, he began to bless his 12 sons as he leaned on his staff. What is called a blessing ends up being more like prophecies pronounced upon the 12 tribes of Israel. In fact, telling them what should befall them in the last days. Now remember, so he's prophesying here about the last days. That's very interesting. He's not just giving them a word. He's saying, here's what's going to happen to you in the time of the end. Genesis 49:1. Among those 12 sons was Gad, a tribe that did not cross the Jordan River, but inherited land on the east side of the river. Jacob predicted, quote, Gad, A troop will overcome him, but he will overcome in the end. The Hebrew word troop here is Gedon, and I'm going to try to get that right, make sure I'm pronouncing that right. Gedon, which refers to a crowd of men, especially soldiers. The root of the word is gadad, which means not just a crowd, but a crowd that is pressing into a person as if to cut them off or harm them. I would say this is exactly what occurred with Trump. During his entire campaign, the media constantly rose against him, cutting him down in every possible manner. Yet in the end, he overcame the opposition and won. The Torah reading.
Wow.
The Torah reading has clues that fit either what would happen to him or the pattern of what happened, the reversing of the blessing. Well, he's supposed to get it. No, this one's getting it. Well, that's never happened before, you know? Or they're going to look like they're going to overcome you, but when the end comes, you'll be the one which would have won.
So good.
Is that not amazing?
Wow,
yes.
So,
yes.
so the point is, Jim, in Ecclesiastes 1, 9, and 10, it says, the thing which has been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there's nothing new under the sun. So in other words, in the writer there, the Wisdom of Solomon says, if you want to know what will happen in the future, it's already happened in the past.
Yes.
Wow. So what God does, it's prophetic. There's lineal time, there's horizontal time. Oh, that's another teaching. There's cyclical time. Cyclical time is always prophetic time. God brings everything in full circle. Okay, it's just like if we go back to the 80s where you were in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Everything happens, but guess what happens? You come full circle. I feel like I'm right there right now, you know? It's full circle. And that's how God prophetically deals. People who are prophetic live in cyclical cycles. We all do.